pretty interesting moment last night. There were a lot of hot takes about how the president did whenever he was in that debate last night. The best one was actually from Christie. Why? Because he helped Trump prepare for the debate and basically criticized his performance. Let's take a listen.
Yeah, I think on the Trump side, it was too hot. I mean, listen, you come in and decide you want to be aggressive, and I think that was the right thing to be aggressive, but that was too hot. And so I think that what happens is, with all that heat, as you said before, you lose the light. That potentially can be fixed. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see on the Trump side. On the Biden side, I'd be very concerned that his problems can't be fixed. Because if you're not up to being able to stand up there for 90 minutes and be consistently coherent, people are going to wonder whether you're going to be able to do that when you're sitting behind the desk in the Oval Office.
Well, I just think it's funny, Krystal, that he's like, well, maybe it'll be fixed, maybe not. I'm like, aren't you the guy who's supposed to fix it? Like, what's happening here?
Yeah, but with Trump, it's not like you can really coach that guy very effectively. I also think his take is pretty insightful because he's right. Trump could potentially turn it down a little bit. I think he could learn from this debate. He could potentially come out and have a much more effective second debate. Biden, it's harder to fix the problems there. And look, I think he was thrown off by as many people would be, by just the sheer level of hectoring and interrupting, which does cause you to lose your train of thought and makes what is already a struggle for him even more of a struggle. But yeah, we saw him in that debate against Bernie Sanders. He was not amazing, but he was relatively strong. Biden did not have a strong performance last night in any regard. The only reason that he came out fine was because Trump basically blew himself up. So I think Christie's point that, look, next time around, Trump may have an easier time adjusting and having a more effective performance than Biden, I think that's actually a smart and insightful take. Now, I will say, how much are these things ultimately going to matter when you have so few undecided voters? To me, that's a real open question. You've already got 1 million people who have cast ballots. You have people very hardened into their positions. Frank Luntz actually said from his focus group, it was the first time that he saw undecided voters, rather than deciding on either of the candidates, being like, I'm just not going to vote.
Yeah.
Which is pretty, that is a sad state of affairs, but a totally understandable one based on the performance last night.
I think that's right. I will say, having covered Trump for a while, I don't think he's going to change anything. I think he's going to hear, and he's probably watching all cable news right now, hearing, he shouldn't have interrupted all the time. That's just going to make him want to interrupt more. I don't think he's going to change his strategy one iota. He's always trusted his gut, as he did in 2016. That's why he thinks that he got elected. He doesn't trust much of the analysis on cable, sometimes for good reason. This time, I think, for bad reason. And he's going to say, I made Biden look like a fool. He was doddering. He was fumbling. People can see that. I don't think he's going to change his strategy. I think he very much is pleased with his performance last night. Doesn't believe much of the polls. Is going to see this. Is going to incorporate it almost like a negative feedback loop, and it's going to harden his position. What you saw last night, I think, is what you are going to get all three debates.
Great. That's awesome. I can't wait for more of that.
So,
I did watch some of all three cable news networks last night just because I like to get a sense of their coverage. Obviously, you know what MSNBC was saying. No surprises there. Rick Santorum was the Republican that they had on CNN. He was also critical of Trump and did not think that he did a good job. Over on Fox, Dan Perino was like, this wasn't good, and she made the point that I think is correct, which is that, if you'd just been quiet a little bit more, Biden was hanging himself, right? If you had just let him talk, you would have had much more to work with in terms of demonstrating to the American people that, this guy may not really be up to the challenge of being president of the United States. But because he kept talking over him, you never got a chance to fully hear Biden's incoherence, which I think was an interesting point. And Bret Baier, when he first picked up the mic after the debate, he was like, well, I feel like we've all just really been through something.
That I agree with.
Which I think everyone can agree on. All right, we'll have more Rising for you after this.